Okay, so I thought I'd make a short video on how to, well, short. I don't know how short this is going to be, but I decided to make a video on how to play Paladin as a healer when it comes to different content such as dungeon content. And this is a guide for people who are new to the Paladin, or at least when it comes to healing as a Paladin, since Paladin as a healer is very different from other classes in the game that you might try out as healing. So if you come from, let's say, a druid or a monk or, a priest or something, you'll notice that the Paladin is very different in sort of an odd way compared to those classes. And I also noticed that a lot of people struggle a little bit when it comes to that difference. And they can't really figure out, okay, so what am I doing wrong here? Because the Paladin seems very slow. Every single spell you have to heal people with is charging up, and it just doesn't work out when it comes to panic moments inside dungeons. But the thing is, Paladin is actually one of the better Mythic Plus healers that you can have right now. It is very efficient at those oh crap moments, but only if you know how to play it correctly. What I decided to do in this video here is just kind of give you an introduction to, the gameplay style of the Paladin as a healer, and a little bit about talents and a little bit about stats, and just in general to get started. Again, this is not a guide for people who are already they play Paladin healers for many years and they're looking for those extra tips to make them extra good when it comes to Mythic Plus dungeons. This is a guide for people who are new to the Paladin as a healer and just need to grasp the idea of how it functions inside Mythic Plus dungeons, so they don't have to struggle constantly when it comes to doing dungeon content. I think the most important part of this guide, which most people watching this video is going to get that epiphany moment, oh, so that's how you play a Paladin healer, is going to be when we talk about the gameplay aspect of a Paladin. But before we do that, we do need to talk about talents, we need to talk about stats, okay? So to start with, let's just get the stats over with. Stats, you should not look at my Paladin here, by the way. I usually play DPS as my Paladin, and even for that, my stats are not correct. So, don't look at my stats, but instead, let's go ahead and talk a bit about what stats you should have as a Paladin inside different content. As a Paladin healer, you of course want to make sure you always focus on intellect. That is very important. The next thing you want to focus on is critical strike. And the reason for that is that you have a lot of moments where you need to spend holy shock, and just in general, you need to charge spells every single time you use it. So having critical strikes is really good for adding a little bit extra of critical healing to moments where you really need it. So critical strike is just a really good thing to have as a Paladin healer. The next thing you want to focus on is going to be versatility. Versatility just in general increases your healing done. So having extra versatility is going to just overall help you. So that's a good thing to have. The next thing you want to make sure you focus on is haste. Haste is going to allow for you to cast spells faster. And in that way, since you have to charge it every single time, get them out there faster. So haste is, again, just a good thing to have. And then in the end, we have mastery, which is going to help you with your passive ability, which we're going to talk about in a second, which is going to allow for you to heal even more to friendly targets who are closer to you, the Paladin, which we're going to get to that, but mastery is the least important you need to focus on. So it's going to be, critical strike, versatility, haste, mastery, in that order. So don't look at my Paladin here because he definitely do not have the stats that he needs to have. Just ignore that for now. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into talents. This is the part where most people are going to struggle a little bit, because as a new Paladin healer, you're probably maybe used to other healers in the game. And there's this thing that healers stand at the back, healing, party members from the back so they don't take damage. And Paladins are the opposite, because Paladins are the only plate class in the game, which means they can take more damage, which also means that they have a different playstyle. So when it comes to Paladin as a healer, the ideal way for you to play a Paladin healer is to stand right where the tank is and attack enemies with the tank and heal at the same time. So instead of just standing at the back healing, you need to be attacking and you need to be healing at the same time, because a lot of the abilities you have, passive abilities and the talents you can choose, they sort of try to push you into attacking as a healer. So this is something that is very important to point out before we get into this. New people who are not that used to the idea of attacking while they're healing might feel a bit uncomfortable with it, which we're going to talk about an alternative until you get comfortable with the Paladin healer. And then your end goal is to talent into a different sort of talent tree to, become that sort of healer that stands by the enemies and attack at the same time. As you can see here, I do have some talents set up. These can be changed to your liking, but I'm just going to go over them and then you can just sort of decide for yourself. The first row here, the ideal thing as an end goal for you as a Paladin healer is to choose Crusader's Might. The reason for this is that you're going to be using Holy Shock as a healing ability a lot when you do content. It's going to be your primary healing spell. So Crusader's Might is going to allow for you to reduce the cooldown of Holy Shock whenever you use Crusader Strike. So again, we're getting into that you need to attack in order to reduce the cooldowns of your spells. So that again talks into the fact that we don't just stand at the back, we need to make sure we fight and heal at the same time. So Crusader's Might is your end goal. If you're not feeling comfortable standing close to enemies attacking at the same time and just kind of want to stay back at the back healing to begin with, then you can choose Bestow Faith. This is also the better single target healing ability. We're not going to get into PvP, by the way. This is purely for like mythic and raiding and stuff like that. So PvE content. So Bestow Faith is a good alternative. It basically heals whoever you cast it on after 5 seconds. But again, like I said, you want to use this just as a beginner thing until you get comfortable with Paladin healing and then switch over to Crusader's Might to, get used to attacking and healing at the same time. The next one, you can choose between Unbreakable Spirit or Cavalier. Unbreakable Spirit just basically reduces some of the cooldowns of some of your major healing cooldowns down here. You might not need it. So if you judge that you don't need to have that reduced cooldown because you don't spend those spells frequently enough, then you can always choose Cavalier, which allow for you to use Divine Steed a second time, so you have 2 charges of it. In the next row down here, we have 2 options. You can either choose Fist of Justice, which is going to allow for you to reduce the cooldown of your Hammer of Justice, which is your stun. If you don't think that is important enough, then you can always choose Repentance. I have to admit, I haven't really used Repentance that often, so I might actually switch over to Fist of Justice. So you can choose what you want to do here. This one basically, by choosing Repentance, it allows for you to stun an opponent, kind of like how rogues can sap things. So you can just like sneak past it as a dungeon group, and you don't have to fight certain enemies. But I've never really had to use it, so I think Fist of Justice might be the better one to use here. On the next row, Devotion Aura is just simply the best one here. Again, you can look into these and experiment with them, but Devotion Aura just basically reduces all damage that people in your party are taking by a certain percentage, and it always allows for people in your party to reduce damage by 10%. So in general, it just reduces damage that your party is taking, and it's just a really good one to have. Next row down here, Holy Avenger is the one to go for. It's another cooldown, and Paladins have a lot to do with cooldowns. I have used this so often when it comes to playing, so I really recommend that you have Holy Avenger to make sure that, you have it in panic moments where you're about to, when the group is about to die, basically. The next row down here, Sanctified Wrath, is also the one that I recommend, as it just basically makes your Avenging Wrath, which is your primary, oh shit, we're about to die cooldown. It makes it longer and it makes it better. So I would just in general, focus on that one when it comes to these talents here. That is also what is recommended if you go to online sources. And the last one down here, you kind of have to decide what kind of content you're doing. If you're doing raid content, you need to ask yourself, are you going to be a tank healer? Or are you going to be still a tank healer, but you're also going to focus on healing at least 5 other people inside the raid group? Because Beacon of Virtue is good when you have at least 5 people you need to heal, whereas, Divine Purpose is good for when it comes to single target healing. The basic idea behind Paladins as a healer is that you're really good at healing up to 5 targets, like that's what you're really good at, or single target healing. But as soon as you have more than 5 people you need to focus on healing, you suddenly become much worse than any other healer in the game. So that's why Paladins are usually seen as tank healers, because they're really good at keeping tanks alive. They have so amazing bursting abilities when it comes to healing. So, you know, doing that is something that Paladins are good at. So, you know, depending on if you're doing raid healing or dungeon healing, in that case, if you're doing dungeons, I highly recommend you to Beacon of Virtue. It gives you a AoE healing ability for much needed situations where everyone's taking damage. So that one's just really good to have. So with that, we're not going to talk about PvP talents, but you just kind of see what I chose here. Blessed Hands, Divine Favor, Light's Grace, if you want to have something to start from. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about gameplay and, you know, how you're supposed to be healing inside dungeons. The thing that I see most people struggle with is how to play the Paladin healer in a dungeon. Because you don't just stand at the back, like I said, just healing people from a distance, because first of all, you're going to pretty much nullify your mastery, or at least make it very reduced, because you have to stand as close to your targets as possible. One of the passive abilities that you have as a Paladin is that all your healing is increased based on the proximity of your target. So if I'm healing someone, let's take this target dummy over here, and I stand way in the back here healing him, I'm going to heal him a lot less than if I stand close to him. Let's go and test it out for a second here. So if I stand here, I heal it. You can see I heal for 38,000. And let's hope I don't crit at any point. If we get close, 57,000. So I want to stay close to my target when I heal, because I just in general heal more. And that's why if you're in a group with somebody, let's say a dungeon group, and this is an enemy, the tank is fighting it, everyone else is fighting it, I don't want to stand here heal. I want to get close to it. I want to use my Holy Shock on the tank, because he's probably the one losing health. I want to use Holy Shock on him. Then I want to start attacking in order to reduce the cooldown of my Holy Shock. See, I can already use it again. So you want to make sure that you use Crusader Strike on enemies to reduce the cooldown of Holy Shock. So when you go in, let's say we're in a dungeon. This is the first enemy, and we're about to start our Paladin healer gameplay, right? So we have an enemy here. The tank is rushing in. Everyone is attacking it. What I want to do as a Paladin is I want to get close. I want to throw down my AoE. I want to throw my, what is it called, Judgment, because then my next Crusader Strike is going to deal more damage. Holy Shock. And then again, reduce the cooldown of Holy Shock using Crusader Strikes. Holy Shock. And again, attack to reduce Holy Shock. Now there will be moments like this where your Crusader Strike and Holy Shock both are on cooldown. You just gotta fill in with Flash of Light or Holy Light. In a lot of situations, if you're doing high Mythic plus dungeons, you're probably not gonna be using Holy Light, but I still think it's a good thing to have there, because it's very mana conserving, so you don't waste all your mana if there's no need to use Flash of Light. One thing you're gonna notice here is when I go in and use Holy Shock, you can see I get a blinking Flash of Light or Holy Light, like it's actually glowing down here. That's because once you use Holy Shock, you get a much better version of these abilities down here. You can actually see up here, Infusion of Light reduces the cast time. Let's actually use it again. Reduces cast time and also increases the healing of your next Flash of Light by 40%. So in this case here, when you use Holy Shock, you always want to make sure you follow up with a Flash of Light. That's also going to help you having Crusader Strike ready again for when you need to start attacking. So again, we start the dungeon, run up, throw in our AoE, Judgment, going to heal my tank, reduce the cooldown. Now this time it didn't actually pop the thing that we needed, so let's just heal again with the Holy Shock. Oh, now it popped it. You can see there's these rings around me. I use Flash of Light. And then again, we use Holy Shock and reduce the cooldown out of it. It's pretty basic. You just gotta make sure as soon as you can attack, and always try to use Judgment before you follow up with the Crusader Strike. So it's a very odd playstyle with the Paladin that you have to do all of this. And it's something that you really need to get used to. Again, like I said, if you're starting out and you're a little bit uncomfortable standing close to enemies, just start out with the talents that we discussed and just stay at the back healing. Because you can do that to start with. Just note that your healing is going to get highly reduced the further away you stand. So try to practice standing up close. So just one more time so everyone understands, because I've played Paladin Healer for enough time for me to get used to this sort of play style, but not everyone has. So when I start mentioning all these different names really fast, then you might not follow up. So let me do it really slow. Run up to the opponent. AoE, Judgment, Holy Shock on the tank. There's no tank here right now, but there would be a tank. Then you want to make sure that if you're not proccing Flash of Light, so you can get that faster casting, then you want to use Crusader Strike to reduce the cooldown, okay? So AoE, Judgment, Holy Shock, okay, it doesn't proc, so I use Crusader Strike, Holy Shock, oh, it procs now, Flash of Light. And then we start over again. Judgment, reduce the cast time, Holy Shock, oh, I can use AoE, reduce the cooldown of Holy Shock, and while you're waiting for it, don't just stand here do nothing, use Flash of Light in between as filler. AoE, Judgment, Holy Shock, reduce the cast time, AoE, Holy Shock, oh, can't do anything, Flash of Light, oh, can reduce the cooldown again, Holy Shock, AoE, Crusader Strike to reduce the cooldown, oh, Flash of Light is faster cast, there we go. Holy Shock, you get the idea here, I'm just sort of reading it out. It's a pretty easy playstyle, but you just need to learn how to do it. The next thing we need to talk about is what happens in those oh crap, we're about to die moments. Because that is the thing that most people, they have struggles with when it comes to as a paladin as a healer. So let's say you're with a group. Everyone's taking damage all of a sudden. The tank might be dying while everyone else is alive. I don't know. Someone is about to die. And you need to have a lot of healing coming in very fast, otherwise the group is going to wipe. So what you need to do is you need to change your mindset a little bit again, because other healers in the game, they have amazing just healing spells that passively, well not passively, that you can just use and then everyone is getting healed up. Monks have it, druids have it, priests have it, you know, everyone has amazing AoE healing abilities to make sure that everyone just keeps staying alive. So let's say everyone is taking damage and you really need to step up as a healer to make sure people don't die. What you gotta do is, first of all, you gotta make sure that you know where your cooldowns are, because you have 3 cooldowns that we need to be aware of. You will be using them frequently. Cooldowns as a paladin healer is not something you keep in the back of your spell bar to those, you know, I might need it at some point, you know, maybe 10 minutes from now. No. Paladin cooldowns you need to use frequently. Avenging Wrath, which is your main, like this is like the strongest one. If somebody is about to die and you pop this one, they're not gonna die. Unless you did it like way too late. You also have something called Holy Avenger, which we talented into. That is going to be an amazing lifesaver. And then you have something called Aura Mastery. And depending on the aura you choose, in my case here, we chose to have extra defensive abilities or reduce damage taken. So, you know, with this one, you're going to have 3 cooldowns, which are just amazing. So let's say we, as an entire group, everyone's taking damage. If everyone is taking damage and they're about to die, you probably need to stop attacking the enemy because you need to focus on just healing now. Attacking enemies and healing at the same time, something you do to passively maintain everyone's health. But when those panic moments hit and everyone needs to be saved, then you want to stop attacking and instead focus on burst healing using cooldowns. So let's say everyone's taking damage right now. What you gotta do is, first of all, pop Avenging Wrath, if you have it ready. Pop it. Make sure you use Holy Shock, because the first one is going to be very powerful when you do this. You don't want to do it just quite yet, though, because you want to spend your Beacon of Virtue, which is AoE healing. Everyone in the party right now is going to receive healing when you use any of your healing spells. Now you want to use Holy Shock, because everyone is just like buffing up with their health. Everyone has full health almost immediately. You have a second Holy Shock and use Flash of Light. Any sort of healing you pretty much cast right now is going to heal everyone up to full health. So you're going to have a short window there where everyone is just like instantly filling up with health. And again, Beacon of Virtue is just a general, it's on a 15-second cooldown. Whenever anyone but the tank is taking damage, like, you know, probably like 2 more people or something, use this one, because it's just going to make everything easier instead of you having to manually click all the different party members. So, you know, just keep that in mind. And again, these are very short cooldowns. You might not think the 2 minutes is short if you're a new player to WoW, but it is actually very short. By the time you get to the next mob that might actually wipe the group, you should have it ready again. Because if you are almost wiping every single mob you hit inside the game, then I think the tank is doing something wrong. Okay, so it's not your fault. But as a healer, you will have this ready pretty much as soon as you need to have it ready again. If you did spend it, and you do by some sort of weird accident run into another mob of enemies and almost wiping the group, then you can either use Aura Mastery or you can use Holy Avenger. Holy Avenger is going to make your casting a lot faster, and it's going to also increase the healing that you can do. So again, amazing cooldowns for a Paladin. And using cooldowns is a main part of Paladin rotations when it comes to healing. You need to get used to using it. So again, we're in everyone's taking damage. I want to run up. I want to make sure I pop my cooldown, give everyone healing through Beacon of Virtue, and then use Holy Shock. Oh, Flashlight activated. Use that. Holy Shock. Oh, Flashlight activated again. Use that. Oh, Holy Shock's ready again. Oh, Flashlight activated again. Just keep doing that. Everyone is at full health by this time. So, you know, let's say you do this thing runs out. I don't have my buff anymore. People are still taking heavy damage. Use the next one. And just keep going. Oh, Beacon of Virtue on everyone, so everyone's taking health. Well, reduce the cooldown. Holy Shock. Reduce the cooldown. Just make sure to heal everyone. It's a pretty simple playstyle once you get into it. Oh, somebody's still taking damage. Well, then you use the next one. You can already see we almost have this one ready again. Like, there's not a long time for this cooldown to be up again. So, you know, Paladin is amazing for oh crap, we're about to die moments for at least 5 people. Like I said, when you get beyond 5 people, for example in a raid, you don't do too amazing. So you need to focus on keeping probably the tanks alive to make sure everyone is, you know, not wiping because the tanks are dead. So Paladins are kind of seen as tank healers. So we talked about the basic rotation when it comes to Paladins as a healer. We also talked about using cooldowns, which is a very important aspect of the Paladin. The next thing we're going to talk about is some of the other abilities that you have, like some utilities or healing spells. So when it comes to Paladin as a healer, we also have something called Light of the Martyr. Martyr. I don't know how to say that in English. Martyr. Basically, this one is a very low-cost, mana-efficient healing spell that is good for single-target healing. So I can just keep using that again. You can actually see my mana is going up to 100% by the time I need to do it again. So you can see it's very efficient. But you'll notice something else too. My health is going down when I use it. So this is where you actually sacrifice some of your own health in order to heal others. And it's very important to note here that using Light of the Martyr is fine to do if you feel like, oh, you just need like a quick like healing somebody in the group without having to charge it first, like Flash of Light does require, or Holy Light or something else. You can use Light of the Martyr to just really quickly heal somebody up. But one thing you need to keep in mind here is that if I were to use Beacon of Virtue on party members, let's say I used it here, if I were to heal him, I'm also healing myself, you know, if I use Holy Shock or any other healing ability. But if I use Light of the Martyr, I am only healing the target that I'm aiming at. I'm not healing everyone else. So this is only for single target healing. Even if you have this AoE healing up, you can't spam Light of the Martyr and heal everyone up to full health. That's not how it works. You're only going to heal that target you're pointing at. So, you know, Light of the Martyr, really good ability for panic moments, but only something I use for panic moments. And I'm not talking about, you know, I'm talking I spent all my cooldowns and people are still dying. I will be using Light of the Martyr to keep everyone alive, while I use Holy Shock to keep myself alive. Besides that, we also have Bubble to keep ourselves from harm. Something a lot of people like to do is they can actually use Divine Shield. And if I do that and I start using Light of the Martyr, you can actually see that I'm not taking damage. So you can actually combine this into a pretty awesome healing combo, so you don't take damage while you're doing that. That is one thing you can do. Another thing to really keep an eye out for is that you have Lay on Hands. If the tank is in a really bad spot and you can tell you waited too long to use one of your healing cooldowns, then you can use Light on Hands, or Lay on Hands is called, to instantly heal up the tank to full health. This is a 10-minute cooldown or 7 minutes if you use one of the talents to reduce cooldowns. And you need to make sure you keep in mind you have this ability. A lot of times I see paladins that heal that forget that they have this laying around, and it really saves the group from a lot of wipes if you know you have it ready to be used. So know that you have Lay on Hands to fully heal up the target. Let's see how much it heals this training dummy. I'm kind of curious about that. It actually did quite a bit of healing. Like, if you notice how little my other abilities are doing, like I can't even see the green bar. with Lay on Hands, I could see like that much of a chunk. So it's quite powerful. You also need to make sure that you have Blessing of Protection. That is something you can cast on party members, which is going to make them immune to physical damage for 10 seconds, I believe. Yes, 10 seconds. And one thing to note here is you should not use this on the tank ever, unless you tell them about it so they're ready to unclick it again. If you use that on a tank, every enemy that is being taunted by the tank is going to ignore the tank and attack the rest of the party. So if you use that on the tank, you're pretty much wiping your entire party. So don't do it unless the tank is ready to unclick it again in a panic moment and then re-taunt all those targets again. Don't use it on the tank unless you communicate. If you're in a pug with random people, just doing random dungeons with random people you don't know, nobody's talking over TeamSpeak or anything, don't use Blessing of Protection at all on the tank. Like, you can use it on DPSs or the healer. Well, in this case, you're the healer, so you can use it on yourself, but don't use it on the tank. And then the last tip I'm going to give you here is that you have this thing called Blessing of Sacrifice. Blessing of Sacrifice is another oh shit we're about to die moment sort of cooldown. But the thing about this one is that you're going to suffer a lot of the damage that other people are taking. So kind of like Light of the Martyr is like, you heal somebody but you're basically spending your own health to do so. Light of the Martyr is really bad for like, you're gonna take a lot of damage. So this again is a good combination together with Divine Shield, just FYI. So you can combine these, you're not gonna take any damage while you use Divine Shield. So I think the last thing I'll do is I'll queue up inside a dungeon. Right now we have time walking going on, so I'll just take one of those. And I'll just kind of show you how Paladin functions as a healer inside dungeons, so you can see it in person, how I would do it as a Paladin healer. And again, the Paladin is so different than other healers in the game, so, actually playing inside a dungeon the first maybe 3 times is going to be a little bit difficult for you because it's going to be a completely different playstyle as a healer that you have to get used to. So you will not perform optimally the first couple of times you go into a dungeon, and that's okay. You just need to keep in mind that you want to practice the playstyle properly, and you will get it eventually. And once you get it, it will feel amazing to you as a Paladin healer because it's not difficult once you get into the playstyle. It's just a force of habit you have to get used to. So going into okay, so guess we're entering a group where everyone's dying. Okay. Oh, that's neat. Okay, so here we go. Let me just go ahead and move down the, there we go. All right. So as you can see, I run in, start attacking, reduce the cooldown on my spell, Holy Shock's ready again, I heal the tank, AoE, and we continue. Okay, Holy Shock's ready again. AoE. Heal. Oh, well, reduce the cooldown is what I meant to say. By the way, you can actually kind of see my spells at the center here. You can actually see once I have my spells ready, I'm spending them. Holy Shock's ready again. I spend it. And you can see we're not really taking that heavy damage. Like, these are not hard mobs at all. We're not doing a mythic plus dungeon or anything. So, it's not really an issue. I need to make sure, when this thing pops up here, it shows that I have a Holy Shock, or like, not a Holy Shock, a Flash of Light that I can use. So I just need to make sure that, notice I'm not using my Crusader Strike until now, because somebody needs to have taken damage first. Oh, everyone's taking damage. Instantly we use our Beacon of Virtue to heal everyone up. Oh, people are dying. Choose cooldown, Holy Shock. Flash of Light, everyone's okay. And everything's fine. So, now we're at a boss. Holy Shock, reduce the cooldown. Very important to do. Flash of Light, since I have the buff for it. Holy Shock, reduce the cooldown for it. Holy Shock, attack. Flash of Light. Flash of Light. Somebody has a debuff. Oh, can't remove that. It's fine. There we go. Make sure we use Holy Shock on the tank because he's taking damage. There we go again. Reduce the cooldown. Use a Holy Shock. Oh, not a Flash of Light it's called. Heal him up again. There we go, we're fine. Flash of light. Flash of light. Let's do a little bit of AoE since everyone's taking a little bit of damage there. That's fine. Oh, run away from that. That's bad. Gotta follow the strat too. Everything is chasing after the rest of the people. So you can see it's really not that difficult once you like really get the hang of it. There's a few moments where, oh, somebody's taking damage. Like these people are right now because they're staying in stuff they're not supposed to. See, okay, so I'm going to use a cooldown now because I can anticipate, oh, people are taking damage. I should have spent my Beacon of Virtue before I used Holy Shock. That was a mistake. But you can see everyone is at full health again because it's just amazing healing when you have your wings up. Like, nobody's going to die while that's happening. Holy Shock. Reduce the cooldown. Holy Shock. Reduce the cooldown. Holy Shock. You can see I'm keeping in a pattern here. It's pretty easy. And now he's dead. So, you know, basic idea. Just keep using Holy Shock. You'll notice that that's what I'm using most of the time. Why are people going that way? This way. So just keep an eye out for those procs. Make sure you have some sort of thing to like tell you when things are going to be ready, because that's a good idea. You can see I'm using weak ores right now as a add-on. I will list the add-ons I'm using in the description of this video in case you want to see it. But just, you know, note that, you know, it's pretty easy playing a paladin. You just gotta know how to use the playstyle properly. Everyone's taking damage right now. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will maybe see you in another one.